Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. It's Friday. Friday. We can all sigh. We can all breathe a sigh of relief. We've got to the end of another week at $103,000 for Bitcoin. And for me, that is very significant. We're not hanging on. We're not breaking out yet. And we are going to have a look at the Bitcoin chart today. We've got a lot to get through, as always, but this time it's Friday. So we're going to take it a bit easier today. And I'm going to go through some top lists. Top lists of the best performing markets in crypto in the last few weeks. We're going to go through the top deep-in projects. We're going to take a look at, let me have another look. What was the other thing we're going to look at? Deep-in markets and trending. That's the ones we're going to look at. We then also got an airdrop coming up on Cardano, which claims to be the biggest airdrop the world has ever seen. Now, we don't know whether that's true or not, but we are going to cover it. And then we're going to have a look at why every game in Web3 seems to think it needs to have its own token. So all of that and the X-Files and the markets in 1 hour, but we have a super important question, the poll question of the day. And this is important. It's more important I know this information. Would you rather go on a dinner date with Donald Trump and eat fried chicken, or a dinner date with CZ and have sushi? Now, I know what I was expecting, and believe you me, I wasn't expecting the answer I've been given. So far, we have 2/3 of people would go on a dinner date with Donald Trump. Are you all crazy? Just give me 1 second. My phone is ringing. Sorry about that. Good morning to Mags. Good morning to Charles. Good morning to KB. Manjeet is in chat. Hidden Agendas, Velvet Rope. I hope you are all doing very well this morning. Good morning to you all. Now, I suppose we should get into the show. Let's have a little look at the markets then. Look at Bitcoin, 103,400. I was looking at the charts just before we came on air, and we've done a $30,000 move. And a lot of people out there say that, you know, Bitcoin doesn't move, it just goes sideways and sideways and sideways. And I basically say, you know, we do, yes, but we also have massive spikes up. And that is because when Bitcoin moves, it moves. So we've seen this move, and now when we go through the markets and we show you, we're having a kind of a pause, a step. So it's important to think, you know, Bitcoin isn't just suddenly going to tank. It's not suddenly going to go to the moon and then never go back down or never stop or pause, whatever it might be. It's just one of those things. Now then, Ethereum had another crack at $2,600. I think we are in a good position for where we want to be by the end of this year. And that is potentially 150 to 200,000 for Bitcoin, potentially $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. 1 minute. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, second. Just give me 1 second. XRP coming in at $2.40, BNB $653, Solana $170. Again, a good position for us to be in for the next leg or move up. And some of those coins, I think, will go back to where they were back in January or February. Solana over $200. Certainly BNB will look at $700. XRP will be looking about $3. Those types of things are certainly the next leg. Now, when that happens, we've then possibly got another pause or a slight drop off during the summer. Maybe we come back down a little bit for a few months. And then I think we're having our last leg up of the year, which is October or November. So again, it's like a marathon. We are on time for the personal best and the world record shot on some of these coins. Bitcoin is $6,000 below its all-time high. That's it, $6,000. And if we're talking about the close, I think we're only about $3,000 or $4,000 behind all-time highs. So Bitcoin is there. Ethereum is a long way off. What, we $4,000 for the all-time high for Ethereum? We're way below that, 50% plus away from that. XRP got to what, $3.50? So of course Bitcoin leads the way, but that's why we look at Bitcoin dominance all the time. So we are in a good position where we are now, and I'm happy with it. So next, what is up, what is down? Story, EOS and Pendle are on their way up. There is a few gains on some of the exchange tokens as well. Aave is on its way up. Nothing major really from that point of view. EOS is up because World Liberty Financials have just bought a bag of it. Bonk, Dog with Hat, a few other meme coins down here that I saw. Pudgy is down a little bit as well. So not really much to talk about in the charts. And I don't want to spend too long talking about prices. Let's get on and have a look at some X-Files before we carry on. Right. Let me get back in and see where we are. Sorry, I was just dealing with an emergency there. Good morning, Venkat. Good morning, Kishan, Cyberpunk Danny, and Charles. Trump and fried chicken would be amazing. I agree. I would personally go and meet him. So I made a video yesterday, which was in reaction to somebody from the Financial Times who said that Bitcoin might be scarce, but so are my teeth. That doesn't mean my teeth are worth billions of dollars. And I think it got taken out of context because I watched the interview with Saylor. I watched her 30-minute Bitcoin and strategy review. And in all fairness, what I would say is that it's been taken out of context, as everything is always taken out of context in this world, because people take a soundbite and then decide to write hit piece or stories and stories and stories. And she was being flippant. And we all know why Bitcoin isn't like teeth. Now, this is a good question from Bitmund Freud instead of Sigmund Freud. Why do many so-called economists struggle to comprehend the value of Bitcoin? And I think it comes down to the fact that a lot of economists based their economics on the Keynesian approach, and that doesn't have any room for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is uncensorable, it's decentralized, and in my video I explain the 5 reasons why Bitcoin isn't going to disappear. We covered it on Wednesday. I showed you Bitcoin is the 5th largest asset in the world. There's only 4 things in the world more valuable than Bitcoin. Now think about that for a minute. Not that long ago, we were talking about Bitcoin entering the top 10. And I said at the time, it's taken out silver, it's going to go for gold. Okay? Bitcoin, in fact, I have the chart here, just to reiterate where we are with this. I actually replied to somebody about this. Where was it? Here. So this is it. This is the final stretch. These are the top most valuable assets in the world. Amazon, Apple, Nvidia, and Microsoft. That's it. And then we have the kind of end game boss, which is gold. Now, gold is 10 times the value of Bitcoin. And the aim of Bitcoin is to replace gold. So you do the calculations on that. Gold will not stand still. Gold is not going to stay at 21 trillion. So for Bitcoin to catch gold, it's not just going to have to go to 22 trillion. It's more than likely going to have to go to 25 trillion. And that's what a lot of people seem to be missing when they say, oh, Bitcoin needs to go to $1 million to catch gold. No, but because we're on different trains going at different speeds. Now, Bitcoin is clearly on a bullet train going at 100 miles an hour or 200 miles an hour. But gold is still on a train doing 30, 40 miles an hour. And all of the assets above Microsoft, Nvidia, and Apple, they're all also moving trains, and they're all appreciating in value over time as well. So Bitcoin is more than likely going to have to hit 30 trillion to catch gold. Now that is some move from where we are today. That puts Bitcoin at $1.5 million to catch gold. It's not a price target I've got. So it's important to bear in mind that economists don't understand something, and then they will carry out research papers on it, and then maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, when it's too late, they will turn around and say Bitcoin is a valuable asset. Because it's so new, they just don't have any research on it. And same with the health professions and doctors, whatever it might be. They just don't understand something until you've had the research done. That's the issue. And then we do get this, we get other things, like, for example, you will see Ozempic. And I'm not going to go off on a tangent here. There's no long-term studies done about this drug, but it's available and people are using it. And it's being prescribed. And I don't understand why that can happen. Because these types of things, they need studies, they need to take time. And with Bitcoin, economists will not understand the value of Bitcoin until it's too late for the average person. And by the time they're telling you to buy Bitcoin or have it as a 5% allocation in your portfolio, Bitcoin is likely to be at $300,000 or $400,000. It's too late. Early adopters like yourself who are in crypto and have been in crypto for a very long time cannot comprehend how little the average person knows about Bitcoin. And if they do know about Bitcoin, they're calling it a scam, because every Tom, Dick and Harry has been calling it a scam for the last 10 years. And now it's the 5th largest asset in the world. And people still have the stigma attached to Bitcoin that it's a scam. It's just too late. Blockstream CEO Adam Back says Bitcoin is strangely low at $103,000 and sees it surging to $500,000 to $1 million this cycle, driven by ETF inflows and institutional momentum. Don't believe everybody you see who is going bald with glasses and facial hair. Don't believe them. Okay? Don't even believe me, right? But I'm not the CEO of Blockstream. This is silly season, and we see this every cycle. We saw it last cycle when everybody was calling for 100 to 150,000 and we got to 70. If we get to 200,000 this cycle, it will be a miracle, and I will be more than happy to get to that stage. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe Saylor and Trump and maybe everybody else in that neck of the woods, maybe they've all got a different plan, and maybe that plan is to just send Bitcoin to the moon. But we shall see. Chinese public company DDC Enterprises to adopt a strategic Bitcoin reserve and plans to buy $5,000. Now, a lot of you might be thinking that China has banned Bitcoin and crypto, and it did and it didn't. It banned Bitcoin mining, then unbanned it, then banned it, then unbanned it, then banned it again. And then they also banned all cryptocurrency in China. And then recently they changed the rules, very similar to what Russia did. They changed the rules so really high net worth individuals can buy crypto and companies can hold crypto, Bitcoin especially. So they did change the rules ever so slightly, but it doesn't benefit the average person. And what they are doing is what I was saying a minute ago. They are making it appear to be a scam while all of the rich people build up their positions in Bitcoin, and then they're going to allow the average person to buy it, which will then push the price higher and make the rich even richer. There is a graph, which I haven't got, that I've seen, which is really sad. And it shows you the wallets, the Bitcoin wallets. And it shows you the wallets that are holding 10, 100 and 1,000 wallets are stacking and stacking and stacking Bitcoin. And the wallets holding less than 0.5 or 0.1 Bitcoin, they are selling. And that's you. And you are selling and you are capitulating, and the rich people are buying Bitcoin. And I said this a few weeks ago, when Bitcoin goes to $1 million, people are going to accuse Bitcoin of being something that only rich people can afford. But the rich people can afford it because you sold to them. And then you're going to wait for it to go to $150,000, $200,000, and then you're going to buy it back again. Don't sell your Bitcoin. I don't care what you do with Ethereum and XRP and Solana. Don't sell your Bitcoin. It is going to in some greater or lesser degree change your life. Now, Google searches for Bitcoin and Coinbase app rankings are near 6-month lows, suggesting retail hasn't returned yet. But analysts expect a surge 1 week after Bitcoin breaks $109,000. Now, this is a statistic you can hang your hat on. Every time Bitcoin breaks an all-time high, these spikes happen. It happened in 2021, it happened in January, and it's happening now. And you can put your hat on it. People won't buy Bitcoin at $74,000 when it's going down, but they'll buy it at $110,000 when it's going up. They've missed that 50% move. It's absolutely crazy. Now then, Sol leads all blockchains in 24-hour fees. Now, I spoke a very long time ago about this, and I've even got the DeFi Llama link to show you. Because what's important here is Ethereum, and I'm not worried for Ethereum, but when you look at certain things to do with crypto, why are fees important to a chain? Because that chain can sell those fees for fiat and pay developers to build on their chain or to help build out their chain. Now, these are the fees over 24 hours, 7 days, and 30 days. And so basically, these are the most profit-making businesses in crypto that are recorded. So this is your top money makers. Now, on here, you will see some familiar names. Tether and Circle, first and second. Meteora, which is a DEX on Solana, is second. Jupiter, an aggregator on Solana, is fourth. But then you come down here and you see Tron and Solana down here. Now, these are fees generated. And what the previous tweet didn't show you was all of this other stuff in here, which I think is important for context. That you understand that Tether made $20 million in fees in a day. Over the last 30 days, they've made over $500 million in fees. That's money coming in to Tether. Circle is making almost $200 million. This is a very profitable business for them. Further down the left-hand side, you can see some newcomers. Hyperliquid is over $2 million. Solana is there. But look down here, Ethereum, $1.7 million. Now, all of these Pectra upgrades and upgrades that they do, they are basically slashing their fees. So they're making themselves cheaper. And it's, on one hand, you need a cheaper chain. Yes, you need to do that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, how cheap do you want to make it? Because Solana has volume. And we looked at this 6 months ago, a year ago, whenever it was, and Ethereum was making 10 times the amount of money that Solana was. And I said at the time, Solana can't build out and develop as fast as Ethereum because it hasn't got the income of Ethereum. And now Solana has 50% more fees than Ethereum. So on a long-term scale, Ethereum is making its tickets to go and watch the football team cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and Solana are building a bigger and bigger stadium. So over a very long period of time, Solana will win. Look at Tron. Now, again, I don't understand Tron. I don't know why it's so high, but Tron is outperforming Solana. So it's important to see, and it's a good thing to look at and say, right, okay, who's making the most money? Because they are going to exist in 4 or 5 years' time. That's the way to look at it. But it's also good to see the comparisons of chains versus products. So Meteora, if you did a cost analysis of Meteora as a business and a profit analysis of Meteora as a business, and then you compared it to Ethereum and Solana, then Meteora should have a higher market cap than it's got now. Now, Bitcoin could outperform gold, according to JP Morgan. Now, outperforming gold does not mean it's going to overtake gold. Bear that in mind. How do we make this so it fits on the screen We've got that side. The once-aligned debasement trade where investors hedge weakening fiat currencies by buying gold and Bitcoin has fractured in 2025. Analysts now say the two assets are locked in a zero-sum game with capital flowing from one to the other rather than rising in tandem. Between mid-Feb and mid-April, gold was rising at the expense of Bitcoin. Over the last 3 weeks, we've seen the opposite, Bitcoin gaining at the expense of gold. Now, that's the managing director of JP Morgan that said that, Nicholas. Anyway, we'll move on a bit. Since peaking on April the 22nd, gold has fallen nearly 8%, while Bitcoin has surged 18%. Gold ETFs have seen outflows. Spot Bitcoin ETFs have recorded inflows. Futures markets show rising Bitcoin positions and declining gold exposure. Earlier this year, the trend was reversed, with gold climbing as Bitcoin lagged alongside other risk assets. But in recent weeks, this dynamic has flipped. Now, we don't need to read too much about this. We know what the pointers are for this, and that is that when you really needed a flight to safety, gold was there. The second that the tariff wars, inflation started to come down, the money left gold, which is the flight to safety, as we've seen with the price going up, and then people wanted to take on more risk. And the one boat they didn't want to miss was Bitcoin. So again, I don't believe for 1 minute that Bitcoin is a flight to safety. It's certainly not at the minute, because it follows the stock market more than it follows gold. Now, will Bitcoin outperform gold? Absolutely. It has 1/10 of the market cap of gold, number one, and it's in the biggest rising new economy in the world, which is crypto. So Bitcoin, of course, is going to outgo. So this title should be Bitcoin to outperform gold in 2025, and it will. And it will probably outperform gold for the next 5 or 10 years. Percentage-wise, certainly, you will see gold have a good year and go up 2%, 3% in a good year. But you might see Bitcoin go up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25% in a year. So it's an unfair dig at gold. Gold serves a purpose, and that is to kind of hold on to and preserve wealth the same way that bonds used to work. But I think bonds are probably a safer bet than gold at this moment in time. It really hasn't done very well. Good morning, Bullish Bull. I hope you are well. Right then, I wasn't going to do a chart, and then I thought I'm going to do a chart, because why not? Now, again, Bitcoin on the way up. So let's take the hypothesis that Bitcoin is going to keep going up. We did this and had a break. We've done this and we've had a break. And we've done this and we've had a break. And we've obviously got our targets on the screen, which we showed you last week, which was 106, 109, and then my target up here was, I don't know why, I think it's a fib level here. There's a fib level here, which is, I think, about nearly 115,000. Now, if you look at where we are doing this beautiful move up, and we've recovered. You know, this was inauguration day. We've slumped. We slumped a lot more based on the tariffs. We came down and we came down and we came down, and now we've recovered. Now, what happens if we take this move and we say, right, Bitcoin is going to replicate its last move? Where would that take us? For example, let's say we had a bull flag here. That would take us there, which is my target, which is 115,000. Now, again, finger in the air, which way's the wind blowing? Trump hasn't spoken. Trump could speak. You don't know. But if Trump doesn't speak, we can see this move to the upside next. So my 115,000 target is simply based on a replica of its previous move. I'm sure if we went and looked at this move, it'd bring us to about 116,000. I'm sure if we looked at this move, it would probably bring us to about 115, 116,000. So we've had these nice legs up. And if it continues, we are likely to do that. The question is, do we just keep following like we did here? Like, if you look at this, we kind of did all this on the way up. And if you look over here, we've kind of done this. So are we just going to follow the same move? When are we going to top out in Bitcoin? Now we're getting to kind of the middle towards the end of May. Are we going to see all-time highs and then a retracement, or are we going to keep on going? And I think the answer to that depends on how fast the rates start to get. And that's going to unlock a ridiculous amount of money coming into crypto, not necessarily Bitcoin, but coming into crypto. So that vote's on Monday. We have interest rate decisions coming up probably in June. We're going to see what that happens there. We've got this, the tariffs haven't been sorted out with China. We've got 80 days or 75 days left of this 90-day thing going on. But it's all looking rosy in the garden. And Trump's telling you to buy stocks. And if Trump tells you to buy stocks and tells you that Bitcoin is great, then maybe we do see a continuation of this move. But don't think this is topping out. I think this is just having a nice little breather. And we want to see this. Anything that does this, does this. That's the way I see it. Anything that does this, let's say we do this, can do this. Okay? So it creates more stability in the prices. We don't want to see these massive spike ups and massive spike downs. It doesn't help anybody. So I think we're in a good position. I wasn't bearish a couple of weeks ago, but I couldn't see where the next move up was going to come from without some more clarity on some of the things that we had with the tariffs. I didn't think China and America would get so close to a deal so quickly. I thought that was going to be a real stickler and last a few more weeks than it did, but it didn't. Trump played the art of the deal, called them out in public, caused panic in the markets, then told everybody to buy, and then went and came out with this deal. And all of the money coming in from the Middle East, that's just going to benefit the American economy. Maybe they don't have the recession next year that everybody's been talking about. If the amount of money, the Boeing orders for whatever it is, 400 billion, then Sam Altman and the AI project, they're going to be selling into Saudi. Then you've got Nvidia selling into Saudi. So there's a lot of positivity at this moment in time. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, so I'm not going to be. Right then, we shouldn't really be talking about this because, of course, we are streaming on Binance as well as streaming on YouTube. But I think it's important. There's two things that have gone on with Coinbase. And I think this is planned. I think this is a coordinated attack. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. Because they entered the S&P 500 on Tuesday or Wednesday. We are now Thursday, 3 days later, and they are being investigated by the SEC over misleading statements. And not only that, but they are being held to ransom by a third party. Now, do I think that's a coincidence? No, I don't. And this is when you get prosecuted by the SEC, or when you get investigated by the SEC at this moment in time with this administration, you've done something seriously wrong. That's how to read this situation. The only people I've seen in trouble with the SEC right now are Dave Portnoy, who keeps launching crappy meme coins, and this. There's very few other examples of where the SEC are going after you. So Coinbase is under investigation over misleading statements. Again, this is probably a nothing burger. It's probing Coinbase for alleged untrue statements about its user metrics from 2021. Obviously, we don't need to look at the share price of that. It said they claimed they have over 100 million verified users. Then they ceased saying that when they were talking to the SEC. Unable to reach a resolution, Coinbase is mounting a strong defense. Now, again, we can't say that they are not telling the truth, because maybe it's 100 million users, and maybe somebody incorrectly put the word verified in there. you need to kind of like maybe weigh up the what's going on. But the more serious one is this. So it joined the S&P, let's say it was Monday. They've had the SEC investigation, and then this happened. Basically, they had an overseas call center or an overseas customer service center where a third party bribed agents that were working for their company to steal users' data. And now they're saying they want $20 million to go away and not hand over the data to all and sundry. And Brian Armstrong has come out and said, we're not going to give you $20 million. We're going to give $20 million to the people who can find out who you are. And that's what he's come out and said. And everybody on crypto Twitter is defending Brian Armstrong. And I'm not. And the reason I'm not defending Brian Armstrong is very simply put, to allow... Oh, that was weird. To allow... Maybe Brian heard me then and turned my screen off. To allow a third party to have that much access to your data shows that your system is flawed. Nobody outside of a handful of people should have access to that much data in any company. And to allow users' information to be taken en masse by an overseas office full of people that you don't know who they are, you don't know why they've been employed, you don't know the employment of them, you just know that they are under the guise of Coinbase. So I think this is the worst of the two things to happen. Just turn that back off. There we go. So this is the worst of the two things to happen, and I think there needs to be comeuppance. And you can point the finger at whoever you want, but for me, the blame lands solely at the feet of Brian on this. I have absolutely no sympathy whatsoever for this company for doing this. And if this happened to Binance, I'd say the same thing. It doesn't matter who they are. You can't allow anybody that much access to your systems. It's irresponsible, but I think it's more than irresponsible. I think it's a lack of care and duty to the information. And I think they're talking about a $400 million fine or a $400 million compensation scheme. It's a lot of money, and it's going to hit Coinbase's pockets. But remember, those things pass. And if you do like investing in stocks and shares in crypto, Riot, the mining stock, or Coin, then now would be an ideal time to think about buying that stock. I don't own any, and I'm not going to own any. I'm just saying, when you see an emotional situation where people are, seeing the investigation, seeing the hack, the price is going to be driven down. So maybe the price of Coin is now at a price where you should think about buying it, because it's only ever going to go up. Okay, maybe not forever, but certainly over the next 2 years, it's only ever going to go up. The same with Tesla. When all the FUD was coming out about Tesla, KB, answer your phone. Apparently. So, again, everything with a pinch of salt. It's not an attack on Coinbase. I'm highlighting the fact that I think a lot of this was orchestrated. Enters the S&P on Monday, gets investigated by the SEC on Wednesday. Obviously, the investigation started before the listing, but it was announced on Wednesday, and there was an attempted hack, and the information about that was released on Thursday. So it just seems too fishy for me. Now then, moving on. 5 DeepIn projects rebuilding infrastructure in 2025. I'm not a massive fan of DeepIn projects, simply because I think it's just a fancy word. DeepIn is a fancy word. Decentralized physical infrastructure networks is a fancy word. They have existed for as long as there has been the internet. So, what are we, 30, 40 years now? Data centers are DeepIns. And there is a use case for them, absolutely. But there's 5 of them on this list, and I'm going to go through them just so you can see. And I'm going to mention some names on here that maybe some of you haven't mentioned a lot of the time. Good morning, Tariq. I hope you are well. Good morning, KB. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a message in chat that's popped up. I don't know who it is. Right then. So we're going to go through a couple of these. You haven't missed anything, Tariq, by the way. You've missed Coinbase, and I think, is that pretty much the only article you've missed? Yeah, sorry, gold underperforming Bitcoin and Coinbase. So Deepin projects. Peak, P-E-A-Q, was built to power Deepin before the Web3 section even got its name, says co-founder Leonard Doorlochter. Clear focus on real-world applications, cutting edge. Its vision has always centered on enabling the machine economy, with Deepin as one of its core values. Beyond tooling, Peak's Deepin grant program, we don't need to say. It's kind of a synergy only possible with a blockchain built end-to-end for Deepin. He emphasizes 50-plus Deepins are building on Peak. From water-saving devices to edge AI nodes, machines are coming on-chain again. I've heard of Peak a long time ago. I haven't looked at it in depth. But again, some of these projects are ones that are going to take forever to take off. And when they do take off, they're going to be massive. Because when you deal with things in the real world, it takes a lot longer. Chainlink is the best example of this. It's taken Chainlink 6 years to get to where we are. 6 years. Sergey Nazarov has spent 6 years to get to the point where JP Morgan are now settling with Ondo and Ondo's blockchain using Chainlink. It took a long time to get there. So Deepin projects are not probably as fast or as sexy as you want them to be because they just take so much time. So Peak I've heard of, but very, 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 very rarely and dim and distant. Now, as Deepin projects lay down cables, spin up sensors and stake hardware in the real world, most wouldn't function without the graph pulling the strings in the background. The graph isn't a Deepin protocol. It functions as the data layer for Deepin, providing decentralized access to the information these projects need to operate. Its network of indexes ensuring that data remains open, reliable, and verifiable, foundational traits for any decentralized physical system. Basically, what the graph does, if there is a data set available that is measurable and it can be tracked, then the graph will produce it. The graph has been around since the previous bull run, and I was really, really bullish on the graph 4 years ago, and then I put all of my eggs into Chainlink. So the graph is a really good project. From environmental sensors to mobility infrastructure, the graph bridges blockchain data with real-world systems, making it easy for Deepin builders to create applications that actually work at scale without compromise. I think the graph is a great project, but just because it's a great project doesn't mean it's going to have great price action. That's simply put. I say the same thing about gaming tokens, which we're going to get onto in a minute. Just because it's a great project doesn't mean that it needs a token or the token is going to do well. Influx. In the crowded landscape, Flux is carving out a broader line. Influx Tech stands out, says CEO. There are numerous decentralized cloud computing networks, but how many of those only provide cloud computing? Flux isn't limiting itself. Building on global infrastructure, it enables unlimited localized deployment scenarios and integrates decentralized AI at its core. We've introduced a new operating system called Arcane into our decentralized computing marketplace. Flux Edge enables private container deployment for secure application. But the real differentiator, strategic execution. It's bringing Web2 giants into the Web3 world. They've partnered with NVIDIA and next-gen cloud to provide top-of-the-line GPU hardware at ridiculously affordable prices. Now, there's a few boring things. Many years ago, I'm going to tell you a boring story. Franny Lee was a footballer who played for Manchester City, Francis Lee. And he became famous because many people said his name was Lee One Pen. Because whenever Manchester City played, the name that would appear under the scoreline was Lee One Pen, because he'd always score penalties. He held a record for it. Boring. Nothing to do with crypto. But he left crypto. Sorry, he left football and he set up a waste reprocessing plant. And waste reprocessing was basically taking people's rubbish and recycling it. And it was ahead of its time. He did this back in the 80s, early 80s. And he made enough money to, at one point, buy Manchester City out of it. And he said, and I think it was something as simple as, if you want to make money, be boring. Do something boring. And what he was referring to was storage units, recycling plants, and stuff that's boring and not sexy. And the likes of Filecoin and Influx, they do boring things, you know. Cloud computing, data storage is boring. But what does the blockchain run on? Solana, where does it store all of its information? All of the information about NFTs, where does it all get stored? It has to be stored somewhere. And that's why Solana partnered with Filecoin. That's why Influx has a future. It might not be interesting. Cisco is probably the most boring company in the world. They have boxes that you plug cables into that make the internet work. That's all they do. At one point, it was nearly 100% of the internet went over Cisco. Most people don't invest in them. Most people don't look at their numbers. Most people don't even know who they are. Influx, the Graph, Peak, even probably go as far as maybe Quant and Chainlink. Those companies nobody hears of and nobody cares about them. So again, is it going to make you money? Probably. But Flux Cloud is going up against some serious competition. You have the likes of Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Cloud. Again, you know, you see it when Amazon Web Services goes down. You see who uses them. You know, Facebook uses them. That Binance went down, didn't it? I think as well. So again, not as much of a fan of Flux as I am of the Graph, for example. Now, Helium, I'm really not a fan of Helium either. I'm not a fan of this project. And the reason is, what they're trying to do is so absolutely monumentally massive that I just don't think it's going to work. And when it does work, and if it does work, they're going to be a billion-dollar business, a multi-billion-dollar business. And what they're trying to do is create a phone network, but also a 5G network that creates a mesh across all major cities in the world. And it's a massive undertaking. But where I think it will work is, I don't know what it's called. Is it called the last mile internet? Something like that, which is basically connecting up places which are so remote, it's too expensive to bring them the internet. And I know Zuckerberg and Facebook were looking to do this in Africa, but I can't see it working on a grand scale. So basically, you create your hub and you get paid in a token. The carriers burn HNT, but the subscriber just pays with a credit card. That model is gaining traction and it is working. It is working, and they are partnering up with AT&T. They've got somebody else in Germany doing it as well. I just don't see it working. And what's going to happen is, I'm going to tell you I don't see it working, and then they're going to have 100 million people using it, and it's going to work. And I'm going to say, right, now we've got to this milestone. Now we've reached the adoption stage, then I would look at Helium. But I don't want to buy Helium tokens to sit on for 5 years while they bring on 100 million people. So just because it's probably on paper an incredible idea, I just don't want to invest in something that's going to take 5-10 years to actually really take off. And they've been going for years. We've covered them before. We've covered them on probably one of the very first live streams we ever did. So they've been around for a long time. They had their own blockchain and they moved to Solana. That was a wise move. That was a very wise move. Why Solana? Because Solana has its own mobile phone, because Anatoly comes from mobile telephony. So it was a good move, but yeah, I'm not a fan. Now, Hive Mapper. We've kind of covered projects like this as well. This is a self-running, edge-powered mapping system built for the real world. B is a purpose-built device that captures spatial AI data and processes it mid-drive. That's very posh. The B updates the map in near real time. Every drive is edge processed, no heavy servers, no server farms, no lag, just raw data converted into live maps as the world shifts lane by lane, sign by sign, block by block. A decentralized system removes the bottlenecks, and by running computer vision directly on the B, we can power everything from autonomous vehicles to logistics platforms. Now, there was another one we looked at. So Hive Mapper is good, but the other one we looked at was the sound one, which I think Tariq has installed on his phone. So there's more than these. There's loads and loads of deep ins. Like I said, it's a buzzword. Hive Mapper, again, it's a little bit like Helium. When you try to do something physical in every part of the world, I think that's a massive undertaking, and it's going to need governments to get involved. If you look at Google and Google Maps, and the Google car that drives around, it drove around every city, every street, almost every street in the world, across Africa, America, Asia, Europe. It did everything. That's, That's Google. That's Alphabet. That's the scale you need to be able to do stuff like that. Hive Mapper, Helium, and these other types of projects that try and do everything, I just think it's too big an undertaking. And what may happen in the future is some of these may merge, become bigger companies, or maybe somebody will create another Hive Mapper or another Helium in another part of the world, which will then become a success, maybe in India, and then the Indian company and the American company will merge. That's also a possibility. Now then, we're going to move on. How long do we have left? 15 minutes. Woo. 15 minutes. Right. Give me a second. These are the top 5 best performing crypto sectors in 30 days. Okay, I hate these titles. Number 3 will shock you. No, it won't. Right then. So, these are the best performing assets and markets over. Is it on the screen? Make it a little bit higher up so you can see. There we go. Right. So, we have number 1, AI. What have I been telling you? 76%, by the way, is not even bringing it back to where it was. It's not even recovering. If a project goes down 95% in value, so let's say it goes down from $100 to $5, and then it does a 76% move after that up, that puts it at what? Let's say, for argument's sake, $9. Okay? So a $100 project that tanks 95% to $5, that then goes up 100%, only takes it from $5 to $10. It's still 90% down. And this is the recency bias I've been telling you about for so long. The recency bias is, you look at these and you think, I should have bought meme coins and AI coins. If you'd have bought meme coins and AI coins in January, you'd still be down 80%. But that doesn't mean they're not going to keep recovering. It just means that this chart isn't telling the whole truth. Now, AI, I have said all along on here that AI is still a massive sector, and you should be looking at getting some AI tokens. And I've told you about Virtuals, AIXBT, AI16Z, ELIZA, all of those things I've mentioned on here before. And maybe if you bought them in April or March, you would be up 50, 60, 70% on them. Meme coins are like the miner bird in the mine. Okay, when they start to recover, you know something's happening in the market. Maybe Bitcoin's having a breather and the alts can run. NFT applications, I'm not even going to talk about. Staking services, Lido, some of the liquid staking tokens on Solana, they've gone up in value. And then, of course, the powerhouse of crypto is, of course, Ethereum. 58% up. 58% up. Now, luckily, they've done a really nice breakdown of which tokens have performed best in each market. And I thought, it's a Friday. I'm going to talk about lots of different tokens today because I don't want to be just talking about the same tokens every day. It gets boring, and I understand that. So This is why I've included this today, because I think it's interesting to bring some of these tokens up. Now, I hold number 1 and number 3. Kaito is a Yapper token. So if I go onto Twitter and I type tweet upon tweet upon tweet, I will get rewarded eventually in Kaito. That's how it works. I think I got about $80, $70 of it last time. Not interested. Virtuals is up 240%. AI16Z is up 140%. They're still nowhere near all-time highs, but they were 2 good projects to get into. Absolutely, definitely. Meme coins. Everybody talks about Dog on Bitcoin. I don't, because I think everybody talks about it, so I don't believe them. Dog with hat is number 1. We talked about that before. Constitutional DAO, I have never mentioned before on the channel, but again, they're coming. Pudgy Penguins, Blur, and Ape NFT. Pudgy Penguins is massively, massively up. And as I've said before, I've held my Pudgy, didn't sell it, stuck it on Camino Finance, earning like 450% APR. Pudgy Penguins is a good one. Staking services. Eigenlayer, number 1, I've covered that before. I've actually got some of my Ethereum staked, earning Eigenlayer, Rocket Pool and Lido DAO. So the sensible ones. I mean, again, if you're looking at staking protocols, let's start again. If you're looking at buying the top performing assets, remember, we're nowhere near all-time highs. So if we were at all-time highs and I was showing you these charts, I'd be saying, be careful buying these tokens because they're now at all-time highs. They're likely to retrace. But we're nowhere near all-time highs in some of these tokens, so I would definitely recommend Virtuals and AI16Z. I think Kaito is an emissions-based project, therefore the price will come down over time. Dog with hat, I would wouldn't look at anything else. A lot of people like Dog though, and I'm not going to say too much about that, but a lot of people promote Dog. Certainly Pudgy Penguins, I wouldn't look at either of those other 2. Staking services, Eigenlayer and Lido DAO, again, Lido DAO is a monster. It's got a huge amount of Ethereum staked on there. Lido DAO, certainly. Eigenlayer has been not a newcomer, but it's starting to creep up, definitely. And then Ethereum. Ethereum is up at $2,600. We were at $1,700. It was a matter of time before we saw a recovery from Ethereum, and it happened. And again, I don't think it was anything to do with Petra. I think the market used Petra as an excuse to get the price back up. I don't think Petra has that much of an effect. So moving on to some other coins that I would look at then. Sentiment, again, we follow Sentiment quite a lot. These are the top trending tokens getting the highest amount of noise in social media. Oh, it's called Mindshare, isn't it? These hippies, I'm going to call them hippies. These hippies and their stupid words. So the Mindshare list, let's call it that, and get down with the kids. Sol is number 1. I think we've seen the ride out of the reputational damage of what happened back in January, February. I think we've ridden that out. I think Sol's going to start moving up. The other thing that's going to start pushing Sol higher and higher is the pre-purchasing of Sol for the ETFs. That's going to happen. And again, Sol could very well be a sell the news event. We could see Sol rally to $600 in October, just before we think the bull run will end. And then we could finish the bull run with Solana at $450 because Grayscale has dumped the market as it did with Ethereum, as it did with Bitcoin. And we can say, no, but that was timing. No, look at the amount of Bitcoin that was sold by Grayscale. Something like 200,000 Bitcoin was sold by them. Ethereum, they dumped the market for 6 months on Ethereum because the amount of the fees charged by Grayscale were forcing people to sell and then buy into BlackRock, buy into VanEck. So it dumped the market. It depressed the market. And I think the same thing's going to happen to XRP. I think the same thing's going to happen to Sol. The price is going to absolutely rip. And then the ETF is going to go live and it's going to absolutely dump. And they will be a sell the news event in my opinion. Now then, next space, NXPC. This was an airdrop on Binance. I also have some funds staked on another platform earning me next PC, and I'm going to tell you right now, I sold it all. Sold it all for USDC. I didn't get a lot. Can't remember what I got, but I sold it all for USDC. And the stuff on Binance, I converted it all into BNB. That's what I do. Because I don't like the project. It's not my cup of tea. So anyway, I sold that one. Launchcoin, I know nothing about. That's up an awful lot. $360 million on Launchcoin, maybe. Chainlink is going to be talked about because of what I said before. The JP Morgan, the first public blockchain transaction and Swift collaboration was JP Morgan, Link, and Ondo. So to see Chainlink in there, massively bullish on that. Don't care about Tether, and of course FTX are paying back $5 billion. While we're here, please don't trade or buy FTT. It is a absolutely dud project. It does not have any value. It's a token of an exchange that no longer exists. It's got no utility, it's got no value. Now, what may happen in the future? Maybe there is an FTX foundation created. Maybe they create a foundation and maybe they start something up in the future. But certainly I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole. Absolutely not. So out of those tokens, which ones would I buy? Not financial advice. I would buy Link and Sol out of the trending tokens out there. But again, I keep scrolling up and down, so we're doing your eyes in. Some of these other tokens, like the Nextbase and Launchcoin, may appeal to you. They just, I try to avoid the noise on crypto Twitter as much as possible, because I always believe that noise is caused by paid promotion. And that's just what I do. And I've joined, by the way, I have joined 3 or 4 Telegram groups, call Telegram groups, with tokens that they are trying to promote, just so I can keep an eye on what they are promoting. But if you follow me on X, you will know that I don't promote any of these tokens, because to promote a token, I'd have to talk about it, and I don't. But I'm in there so I can spy and give you guys a heads up on what is coming out or what may come out. And so far, there's been a couple of little coins that I don't think are going to get any traction. So nothing to report yet. Now, Cardano announces one of the largest retail airdrops in crypto history. And this is the midnight airdrop, I believe. Let's get rid of that. Charles has revealed new developments for Cardano's up-and-coming privacy-focused sidechain Midnight, including a massive multi-chain airdrop initiative aimed squarely at retail. Now, I don't know how they're going to do this, but clearly they're clever enough to know how to do it. If you hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Cardano, you will be given an airdrop of this token. Now, I do not know how they're going to determine who gets what. I don't know if it's I do not know how they're going to reward this, because I have my Cardano staked. I have my Ethereum staked. So I don't know if you're going to get it if those tokens are staked. I don't know if you're going to get it if you've got coins on Binance. I don't know any of that. But what I would say that if they're only going to drop it to people that have got MetaMask wallets, for example, or Phantom wallets, for example, then I think that's unfair on people that hold funds on Binance, for example. But I don't know the details. But I'm telling you about it now because this is going to be a massive airdrop. And I think the price of this token, genuinely think the price of this token is going to tank. Because if you give 38 million people a token, I can guarantee you now 30 million people are going to sell. And then 5 million people aren't even going to know they've got the token. And 3 million people might hold because it's such a massive airdrop. And what's the incentive to hold the token? That's the next question. So if you get night and dust, what are you going to do with them? Anyway, so I thought I'd tell you about that. It's coming up. And then the last thing we're going to talk about, which we have time to talk about, it's 12 o'clock. Right, okay. Very quickly, before we have to go. Lots of people watching today and nobody talking in chat. Do you know what? I don't mind lurkers, but we don't bite. Oh, and by the way, the poll update. No way. 16 votes. Only 16 votes from 66 people. 50% would would go for a dinner date with Donald Trump, and 50% would have a dinner date with CZ. Let's say. Why crypto games shouldn't monetize too early? Again, I totally agree with this. Crypto Kitties, Axie Infinity, yeah, Gods Unchained, Splinterland. Not only is it dead, this is the VC money coming in, it's dead. Its future is as bright. Oh, it's not dead. It is dead. Its future is bright as almost any category. No, it's not, Matt, at all. The firm counts AMGI, Immutable, Hyperplay, and Yield Guild Games. They are good, by the way. I've reviewed a couple of their products before. They've got 100 plus portfolio companies, non-crypto firms like Discord and Epic Games. One bet that I would be, very happy to make is that gaming will not only exist, it will be multiples bigger than it is today. I do agree with that, absolutely. I don't think you can look at the world and have that level of conviction in too many themes. So I think to ignore gaming will be a big mistake. I don't think people are going to go to crypto. I think crypto are going to go to people. This has always been my thought. I think the likes of Epic Games and Riot and Steam are going to have crypto wallets. And in those crypto wallets, you're going to have your NFTs. And those NFTs may be on a blockchain, maybe on Hedera, maybe on a layer 2 of Ethereum, maybe on Solana. And you'll get your NFTs from playing your games. And if you want to send it to your private Phantom wallet, you can. 99% of people won't. 99% of people won't sell them. But having the wallet in Steam, in Epic, in Riot is the future. Okay? Now, the other issue is, of course, the tokens that they're about to talk about. We believe on average the right decision is not trying to monetize your community too early, and that's just what the average games have done. Of course, we've had things that fail. Of course, we're in the business of making mistakes, which is a good thing to admit. And then hopefully when we don't make the mistake, it's a really good thing. Again, what I would say, very simply put, is people are trying to enter such an established market that doesn't necessarily have the motivation to come over to crypto. That's what I would say to that. Gamers, for whatever reason, have no interest in crypto, and that's fine. That is how they are allowed to be. If you don't want to be in crypto, you don't have to be in crypto. I think the asset ownership, if I just close this down so I don't lag too much. There we go. I should be back now. Right. Fran, we're listening carefully. yeah. Do you know what? Sometimes I sit here and I think I'm rambling. I'm rambling nonsensically. I need a shave, by the way. If I let it grow, maybe I could be Crypto Santa this year. The point with crypto gaming is it's going in the wrong direction. It went in the wrong direction in terms of people trying to make games to bring people to crypto. It's never going to work. People have got PlayStations, Xboxes, and PCs. And on those PCs, you've got Epic Games and you've got Steam. So if you're trying to disrupt an industry, you go to those providers that cover maybe 80%. Activision Blizzard is another one as well. You go to them. What's the motivation of the banking system and finance to come to crypto to make more money? What's the motivation of real world asset projects and Deepin to come to crypto to make more money? What is the motivation? What is the motivation for gaming companies to go to crypto? There isn't one. What's the motivation for them? Is the tech going to make the games any better? No, the tech isn't going to make the games any better. The gamers themselves, if you've got a PlayStation or an Xbox, how do they go to crypto? They can't. So gaming is inherently flawed when it comes to the blockchain. Now, What Star Atlas have done, and that's a great example because I like them as a project, what Star Atlas have done is they have taken their game and they have put it into Epic Games Store. So if you have a PC, you can play Star Atlas through Epic Games Store. Epic Games Store have already talked about having their own wallet. Now, where is the benefit to Epic Games and a gamer of playing Fortnite and then playing Star Atlas? Skins. People pay for skins, weapon skins, outfits, headgear, whatever it might be. So let's say you're playing Call of Duty and you win a 1947 Rommel outfit. And then you go to Fortnite and you're able to wear the 1947 Rommel outfit. Look at, what was he called? Shark. Piranha? The gamer with the spiky hair. Whatever he's called. I don't know what he's called. He's got pink spiky hair. And Fortnite made him his own unique skin. It's a one of one. Now, if he could take that skin and wear it in Call of Duty, wear it in Minecraft, wear it in Star Atlas, then it has use and it has value. But until they do something along those lines, it's an absolute waste of time. Anyway, it's Friday. It's 12:05. You guys have been brilliant. I'm going to let you go and enjoy your Friday. I'm going to go to the office tomorrow, make some videos. Have a great weekend, everybody. The Oracle should be streaming tonight, maybe 9 o'clock. So make sure to tune in for him. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Let's hope we are sitting down on Monday talking about $106,000 or $104,000 Bitcoin, because that's where I'd love us to be. So have a great weekend, everybody. See you on the other side.